Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us In the Doll World. I'm Tammy Fisher, and I'm here today with my wonderful co-host, Miss Georgette Taylor.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, Miss Georgette Taylor. And today's special guest is Pat Henry. And so many of you already know her if you're in the doll world. Pat is the publisher of Fashion Doll Quarterly, and we are elated and honored and excited to have her here. And those of you who've been following us know that we got an endorsement from her, but we'll talk about that. Let's get Pat in the room. Hey, Pat, say something.
Hi, it's nice to be here with you ladies.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, we are so excited to have you here.
It's nice to interact with humans.
Yes, I know, right? Exactly.
Seeing human faces and smiles, very exciting.
Oh, very
exactly. Yes.
I put on pants today and everything.
Yay!
It's a big day.
I see you with your nice lipstick on. You got it going on.
It's a big day.
This week. This is about it now.
We caught you at a good time, I guess. We caught you at a good time.
Got out my jammies,
Pants
put on
day.
some real clothes.
That's awesome.
So we're gonna start with Pat. We want to start with your journey, your doll journey. You know, tell us about how you began and then how you moved into the Fashion Doll Quarterly.
Okay, well, I'll give you the short version. The only thing I ever played with as a kid were Barbie dolls. I got my first Barbie doll, who was a Titian Swirl at age 3. Okay. No interest in animals or playing school or running around on bicycles. I wanted Barbies, more Barbies, more Barbies. Okay. So then we jumped to me being in college, and I went to FIT and I studied fashion, merchandising, and marketing, and I wanted to be a stylist. At which point my mother said, so basically you're still just playing with Barbie dolls, but they're real now. I said, no, yeah, that's pretty much it. So after doing that for 20 years and producing photo shoots and dealing with booking models, I was an editor at Vogue, an editor at Elle, worked in advertising and did all that kind of stuff. So by proxy, I would say, working with the photographers, working with other editors, I understood the magazine process. And when I started collecting dolls again as an adult, I had a business partner who said, you know, we should launch a magazine. And I said, no, that sounds like such a pain in the ass. No, nah.
Right.
No.
I won't be able to play with dolls anymore if I do that, right? That's what you thought.
But that's the thing. It started to connect that, well, if I like playing with the dolls, and the other thing is my husband had given me one of the first digital cameras. It was like a huge 1 pixel camera or something. And I said, what the hell do you want me to do with this? What kind of hostile present is this? It's like buying me a vacuum cleaner. He said, oh, I thought maybe you'd like to use it. And I said, dude, and with what? What am I going to shoot? He said, why don't you take pictures of your Barbies? So I thought, all right. So I started doing that. And then Tim Alberts asked me to work on his hat book and his shoe book with him. And we photographed all of that stuff on my dining room table with 2 Chinese lanterns that were sitting in dog bowls. So we were real low tech with this big Olympus camera that was literally like 1 megapixel. Tim was one of the original Jean Team designers.
Nice.
So a lot of people know him from that. He's designed for Madame Alexander. And so he embarked on doing a shoe book, which was the art of making miniature fashion doll shoes. And so I photographed that for him. And then we did the art of miniature millinery, which was a beautiful hat book. So that really got us up to speed. And then I really had to learn how to lay out a book and figure out how this all worked so it would go to the publisher. And so I was kind of inadvertently picking up all of these skills out of necessity, people asking me to do stuff. And then Doug James and Laura Meisner were doing the CED dolls, and they asked me to shoot their ads for Dolls magazine and Doll Reader at the time. So I was starting to pick up all these sort of little gigs of, can you shoot this? Can you shoot that? And so by the time the idea of a magazine came up and I was kind of not sure, it all sort of made sense. I picked up all of the skills for it. I had the interest in dolls, and being in New York City was a huge advantage because I could go visit Mel Odom and Jason Wu and Doug James and Tim Alberts, and I could go to the Mattel showroom and the Brat showroom in those days anyway. And even later, I could hang out with Andrew Yang, and I could go visit Josh McKinney before they moved out to LA. So I was really perfectly placed access-wise for all of these people, to know them, talk to them, visit with them, see the stuff they were working on. So that was a big help, certainly, than being someplace where you can't get to people that easily. Now it's different, but it wasn't as easy to get FaceTime with people. Even with the Tanner Company, which is an hour and a half from New York City, but is actually maybe a half an hour from where I am now. They were sort of like, well, we don't live near New York. It's like, you don't understand. I have a car. I live nearby. I'm coming. Open the door. I'm coming for you. So it kind of spread that way because of logistics, really, just being in the right place at the right time. Some truth to that old saying. So
yeah, that's true.
There's a lot of insight if you can sit in the offices of Madame Alexander or the Tanner Doll Club in those days, Doll Company, I mean. You see what's going on. It's not just an interview. You see what people are doing. Oh, who's that? Oh, that woman makes all the hats. That's interesting. Oh, look at that box of tiny purses. I want to shoot that. So your headspace is different because you're there with them. And that's a tremendous difference, and even in the beginning when Jason first launched his dolls, and he had, 5 dolls that he brought over in a shopping bag to my house, and that I photographed. Getting in on the ground floor, as it were, I think made a big difference because it gave the magazine a real point of view. We weren't just talking out of our butts. We actually knew these people. Right. We had questions for them. And I think too, being the fashion industry for so long, I understood fashion, not just as, oh, that's pretty, that's shiny, but actual construction, styling, presentation. And I had been a fashion stylist for 20 some odd years. So that made sense. I could do that in miniature.
Yeah, you could style the magazine, which is really one of the things I think that differentiated you from other magazines, was the style of the magazine in general, for it to be a magazine about dolls and information about dolls. Nobody's really saw that take on it, or like you presented it. So,
well, the weird thing was also in the real world, my friends and acquaintances would say, "That's amazing, that magazine. Why don't you do a real magazine?"
A real magazine?
I am doing a real magazine.
Okay.
Brought out the Bronx in me. I was like, excuse me? What did you say to my face? They meant it as a compliment, but it was kind of
that's not.
Oh, you're a doll person? Why don't you do a grown-up thing or a real thing? I was like, this is as real as it gets. This magazine is sold all over the world.
Totally Bronx girl coming out. Totally. I'm from the South Bronx, so I just want you to know I can relate to that.
You understand, yeah.
Like, who are you talking? Okay, whatever.
I left the coarser words out. I'm sure you understood what the other words were in there, but so that was part of it too. Is busting out of the doll world and making it a little more legitimate. So we always have kept up the quote from Variety. They did an interview with me a long time ago and called us the Vogue of the doll world. And that made me very happy because I worked at Vogue and I wanted it to be that level of quality printing, but also, intelligent discussion and more in-depth or interesting takes other than, this is a new doll. Here's another new doll. This is a doll that looks like a doll. This one looks like a dog, that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And then we were lucky, we met a lot of really interesting people that contributed, that added to it.
Yes. The doll world's full of interesting people. That's been amazing for us. I was talking to my husband recently, and he was saying to me that he and my daughter were having a conversation recently, and we release a show every week. And he was saying, I don't know how much longer you think you can do the show, because aren't you running out of people? I said, we haven't even begun to touch the people.
And you should have told your husband, like, you should just told him, like, we're interviewing somebody who had a doll magazine, you know, for we said 17 years, was it 17
Yes.
years? I mean,
Yes.
so you found,
Yes.
and having a magazine, you have to have a lot of content, not just, you know, like one guest. You gotta have a lot of content.
Yes.
So it is tons of things to write about. Who,
Yes.
I
The other,
wanted to know, go
oh,
ahead, I'm
sure, go
sorry.
ahead, sorry.
I wanted to know, who was your first, so when you did your first magazine and you brought that out, who was your first, I guess, major featured guest on that magazine?
That was Jason Wu. He was just starting with
Wow.
Fashion
I
Royalty.
love Jason Will. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so they had already released the first line of Fashion Royalty, and he was developing an articulated body, which people forget, unless you have some of the oldest dolls, that they had straight arms, they had bent knees, they weren't very articulated. And so it was a big deal that this doll was going to be jointed. So we decided the theme of the first issue would be movement, because she could actually sit and ride a Vespa. So that's why she's riding a Vespa on the cover.
Okay.
Nice.
And at that time, it's hard to remember now, but at that time, people were very against joints. They thought they were ugly.
Yeah.
And they liked to display dolls. Their dolls were on the shelf. They were there to be counted and to be boxed or deboxed. And maybe you dust them and put them on another shelf. With digital photography, all of that changed, because everybody was a photographer now. We never used to take pictures of our dolls. That was, you know, very few people did, quite frankly.
Right.
Or you'd have to have someone photograph them for you, because most people weren't photographers or didn't consider themselves that way. And with digital, you could have such immediate gratification and get these shots done. And fortunately for me, teaching at FIT, I can also take classes. So I took a Photoshop course back in 2000, and
wow.
People were like, "What is that?"
I was gonna say 2000. They're like,
photographers. And so from the beginning, I realized, well, dolls are perfect for image manipulation and layering and putting them in different backdrops and kind of having fun with scale. And that had not been done. People were just catalog shot, you know, seamless paper, doll on a pink background, doll on a blue background, with the stand showing and them, you know, staring into space, looking like creepy dolls. And I didn't want to do that. So from the get-go, it was shoot them like Vogue models, no stands, posing, moving, doing things, having props. It was fun because of the technology changing, that digital and Photoshop and the internet exploding. You had more contact with doll collectors. You had more ideas. You had ability to shoot. Because years before, when I would contribute to Barbie Bazaar, you know, you take your picture, you'd have to bring them to the photo mat and wait a week and hope they turned out okay. And then mail them with a typed article that if there was any problem, you'd have to retype it and resend it. And it was, you know, old school. And all of that changed. And now suddenly we had people from Australia and Japan and the UK and Italy sending us stuff.
Yes.
So you get to go global really fast because of technology. And that was a big difference too.
Yeah.
An old doll reader, or even an old Miller's, which I loved, it's very narrow. It's mostly corporate stuff and an occasional look at a collector's, you know, shelf. So,
right.
Yes.
Okay.
And you know this now, you can talk to anybody you want and see anybody's collection, and you know, the world is literally at your command. So that was a big change, and that was a big help for us.
Okay. When you first started, were you doing all the articles yourself, or did you have other people, you know, contributing?
Well, I used to have a business partner. So the original deal was she would take care of the writing, I'd take care of the photography and layouts.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And then when that went out the door, then I did everything.
Oh, wow.
So that was an interesting learning experience. I love writing though. So it was okay to do it, but it was just a lot of extra work. So what happened was, the more I would do the writing, the more other people would do the photography.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
If you look at the earlier issues, there's more of my photography and there's very little in the end, because it was easier to find people to take pictures of their dolls. It's very hard to find good writers, quite frankly.
That's true.
Yes.
And so I would have to fill in holes and write based on what people were giving us. You just kind of have to work around that. So one of the things that helped us was theming. Every issue had a theme.
Okay.
That focused everybody. If this is the bridal issue, you get it, you know what to do. This is the glamour issue. This is movement. This is Cool Britannia. This is the holiday issue. So that helped tremendously, because then, for example, with the accessories issue, there were people that do props and do great dioramas. So you went after those people.
Right.
And then your contributors understood what to do. They were like, I don't know what to do this month. Yeah, you do. Look at the list. There is a theme. And it helped tremendously because people really followed that theme and figured out what to bring back, which was great.
Yeah.
So.
That seems like it would be definitely a lot more streamlined, you know, doing it that way. For writers, because you're right, you know, everybody's just going to start throwing in so many different articles, and you have to decide, well, what are we going to feature? But at least in this, you have an idea. Like if it's not that theme, then it doesn't get, you know, it doesn't get put in the article. So yeah,
I think that was an advantage for me, having worked at 2 major magazines, was understanding how editors work.
Okay.
You don't just publish everything they give you, or anyone who sends you a crappy picture of a toilet paper dress. You know, you set a goal. You know, you make a demand that it can't be this. So early on, I would say, no stands. I accept no stand pictures. You're out. I will never speak to you again. People thought I was kidding. I said, no, this is a thing. Very serious. If I like tattoos, it would be on my arm. No stands. But that made people try harder because they had to figure out how to shoot without stands.
Yeah, that's true.
And that prompted me to write the photography book, because I thought, all right, I have to just tell everybody what to do. I want everyone to listen to me and do what I say. So I wrote In Focus in 2000, which was specifically about photographing dolls for collectors. And so there are certain issues with taking pictures of small objects that are not the same for people, certain things that are the same for people that you should do with dolls. And so things like no stands, comb the damn hair. I can't believe people, I don't understand what that is. Bad lighting, of course, is a given, but I understand that because that takes a bit of training. And just things like styling it, and make sure the hand touches the hip. Make sure the doll is not staring into space, because that's what people hate. That's what's creepy.
Right.
So then we embarked on that. We did a book. Then we did a book with Kingdom Doll. I wrote a book about Robert Tonner. So each respective connection brought me into another connection in publishing or writing or taking pictures with different companies, which was great.
That's cool. Wow, you had a fascinating journey. I love it. Yeah, it's great. I'm excited just to listen to it. It's like so many people you've met and, like you said, photographed and did interviews with, especially, you know, years ago, 17, 15 years ago. You know, you don't think about a Jason Wu being on the cover when he first started. You know, you're like, oh, because a lot of people now just know Jason Wu because he's already famous in a sense. You know what I mean? But when he started, like, oh, he's bringing you, you know, or bringing you dolls in his shopping bag or stuff like that. They're so cool.
Well, I think that, again, the fashion experience helped me, because I don't approach dolls like a lot of collectors do. I don't buy duplicates. I don't buy repaints. I do like one-of-a-kinds if there's something I like Dior. So I have a little collection of Dior dolls because that's my little obsession. So I look at them as museum pieces that have a certain purpose and meaning to me, as opposed to, I need everything from this collection. I'm going to go into debt and buy everything at this convention. I never did that. I just never did that. If I don't like it, I don't buy it, and I don't get sucked into that stuff. And so my collection is different. Well, everyone's collection is different, but I think I just have a slightly different approach about why I have them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Not quantity. It's not even quality sometimes. Sometimes it's just emotional connection. Like a nanny doll. You know, just some things make me laugh. And some things are, you know, I've got action figures and certain things I like because I like them, you know. I have Daenerys Targaryen on a shelf next to James Bond and next to the Avengers. And then there's some Mickey Mouse stuff. And then, you know, it changes based on pop culture too. You know, what's going on out there, what's exciting. You know, of course, I have a bunch of Wonder Woman dolls. And so I've always loved Wonder Woman. So that was a no-brainer. So it leaks into other areas that aren't just your typical fashion doll thing. But I think we all do that.
Yeah, I definitely do. I definitely think so. But like you said, I think it's just emotion. It's what connects you. You know, it's what you feel that draws you in, and that's generally what you start collecting. You know, that you feel
that has meaning to you personally.
Yes, definitely.
It's for you, and somebody else is going to pick something else off the same shelf, and that's kind of the fun part. It's not all the same.
Right. Yes, that's true. It was funny. I was I think one of my dolls, one of the big beautiful dolls, Deja, was in a collection, was in the Perot Museum. She was part of a collection that Debbie Garrett had, and they had asked her to be part of this collection of collectors, and it was called The Eye of the Collector. And there was so many different things. You know, I went there, they had Lego collections, they had a person who did dolls, which was Debbie Garrett's dolls, her collection. And then they had all different types of collectors, but they were just fascinated. I was just fascinated by the diversity, right, of all the different things that people collected.
The whole other thing about collecting, though, too, that fascinates me, because many years ago, I was interviewed by a guy who said, I found your magazine. I'm doing my dissertation on childhood trauma and the adult manifestation of anxiety. And I thought, what are you talking to me about? Where is this going to go? And he said, I understand that you state that this is a magazine for adult collectors. I said, yes. So why do you think adults collect dolls? They're toys. I said, well, that's subjective. I mean, I don't think they're toys. I don't play with them like a child does. And I said basically what I just said to you guys about fashion and mannequins, emotional connection. And he was really trying to get me to say that because we were horribly mangled somehow as children, emotionally or physically, that we couldn't grow up and we were still playing with toys. And I said, nice try. I'm
not saying that.
I'm not giving you that. Do what you want, but no, don't think so.
I'm not going there.
It might be true with some people, like any given group of people, but
right.
Yes.
In my experience, and I've been to just about every kind of convention. I have been very fortunate. I've traveled to Australia, to Japan, throughout Europe, and throughout the United States for dolls and for the magazine. And you meet as varietal a group as you would for any other thing, no matter what job. If you went to a plumbing convention,
right,
or you went to a needlework convention, there are the eccentrics, and then there are the very successful people, and then there are people in between. There are the people like to dress up. There are people that I don't know. There's just every kind of type. So
yeah. But I think also too, it becomes a family thing. It becomes a part of a family, especially when you go to the conventions or the conferences or whatever that deal with the dolls or anything you collect. You just feel like you're not alone. It's a part of a family that you have. You can have a conversation with somebody to talk about it, and they're not looking at you like, huh? What you talking about? So it makes you feel like you belong. And I think when we, even on the show, and I know you definitely have probably talked about this in your magazine, it's just a matter of having something that represents you, in a sense, to make you feel like you belong to something. And so, yeah, I think those conventions and things like that bring out the people who want to belong and feel like they're part of a family and can have those conversations with people without them thinking, oh, so you got a magazine for dolls. Oh, it's like, yeah, I do. And it's important because other people like these dolls, but so I think it's about that too, about family.
I think you make a good point about connecting because it represents you, because that was not always the case, as you
right.
Yes.
When I first started collecting, all the dolls were white, and there'd be one token friend of color, of some kind of color. It was usually the same doll in a darker skin tone. And then slowly but surely, even as Mattel had Christie and they had Julia, but that's still a relatively small amount of dolls per capita. Again, with technology and realizing there are more people out there willing to buy a doll if you give them what they want, was against the old school marketing. Because, for example, Doll Reader and Dolls and Madame Alexander were all run by men, straight white men, who obviously did not care about dolls. And Mattel was run by a man, because this was after, what's her name?
Ruth Handler.
After Ruth, there was another woman in the 80s that was very popular. She got fired, but she did a lot for Mattel. Anyway, by and large, it's straight white men running the show, as is everything. And so they just would say, oh, well, black dolls don't sell, or we don't put black dolls on the cover, or male dolls don't sell, or we've never even done an Asian doll. Like, how would we do that? That kind of thing.
Yes.
And then little by little, because people were in touch with each other and online and having a say in things, they started to realize, oh yeah, actually people want a variety of dolls just like they have in their lives, you know. They want different hair colors and skin tones, and they want different facial sculpts. They want them to have boyfriends and girlfriends and siblings and parents and whatever. And to dismiss it all as this is the only thing people want, was an uphill battle for a lot of the women I know, because there's still very few women in the industry still.
Wow.
Even though dolls are generally for little girls, although now it's for everybody. But like I was looking at your list of people.
I was just going to say that. Go ahead.
Yes.
All guys.
So I was thinking, there's a lot of guys in there.
A lot of guys. And so that does color the product, literally, as far as what you're going to get, because they're making the decisions for us. And so we have to speak out and say, no, this is what I want. And this is where my wallet is going to go.
Right.
I think that, for example, someone like Jason, being young and gay and Asian, he got that very early on. And so, and Percy being a man of color and an immigrant, and all those elements, they were much more open to, of course, there have to be different skin tones. They have to have dedicated sculpts. They have to actually really be Black or Asian or Puerto Rican, or very specifically from a certain country. And people responded to that. They love that. And they connect more personally. And now you see that's kind of the default for any doll companies, that there have to be a diverse group of characters.
Yeah.
You know, whether they're related or they have a storyline or not, there has to be something for everybody.
That's true.
Yeah, we're starting to see a lot more of that. But we are still hearing people very commonly when we interview a Black person, the reason that they're making their doll is because they couldn't find one. And when they talk to people at the store told them nobody buys them. So that story is still
conversation even today.
Yeah, still circulating.
There are a lot of parallels between the doll industry and the beauty industry, as far as women trying to have their say, men running the show financially. Someone like Madam C.J. Walker coming along and saying, I need stuff for me and for my people. And each respect, Rihanna now, like, I can't find my skin tone, damn it, I'm famous. You know, I have to make a cosmetics company because you people aren't giving me what I want. And so I think the same thing is going to happen with the doll community. Kingdom Doll are two women from the UK. And I feel, and this might be my prejudice as a woman, that their dolls are more uniquely beautiful because they are very feminine. They are not a man's perception of a woman. They're a woman's perception of a woman.
Right.
Their breasts slope and hang a little bit. They're not up here like torpedoes, like a dragon. Because you know what your breasts look like, and most of these gay men don't.
Right.
They're not touching any boobs. So, but there is a lot to be said for that. So there are little distinctions when a woman designs a doll. And I think that was so much of Ruth Handler's success, is that she was designing for her daughter. Was thinking about her own reality as a woman. Even Madame Alexander, that long ago, had a perception about children and little girls and women and beauty. Right. Made it very successful. And so I think for people like yourself, Georgette, like, you're putting yourself into your doll, so there is a connection to other women, that you get it.
Right. Yeah.
That it wouldn't be the same if you were George.
Right.
Yes.
I'm sure I'll get shit for being, anti this or that because I'm too pro woman, but I'm a feminist and I don't feel like women are getting enough of the pie here.
Right. Exactly. I don't either, especially in this, in the doll, community. I mean, we do, a lot of people that we talk to are generally, guys, and like, I mean, I would like to know where are the doll makers that are women out there, because I think that, it's, we have a voice and we have a say, and we want dolls to represent who we are from our perspective too. And I think that's just as important. So,
so why do you think, I always ask people, so why aren't there more women designing dolls?
So I think that part of it is, I mean, with everything, who's got the money, and it costs so much to make a doll. So I think that's part of it.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah, it's
from
not very
actually
many.
from idea to sketch to production to manufacturing, I haven't seen too many. I think she's right. Part of it is income, I
Yes.
think the majority of the time the women don't make that much money, even if you are
Hmm.
working. Sometimes you're making money, but you don't have a family that you have to take
Hmm.
care of. And the investment part of actually manufacturing dolls is still very expensive for most,
Yes.
for most people. Even when we started out, with our Big Beautiful Dolls, it was incredibly crazy. And I was working, and I think Audrey was working at some point, and I think that she stopped to do the dolls. But it was a fundraising effort all the time,
Hmm.
to create and to find people that could do a small run. I mean, so I think one of the things is definitely financial.
Hmm.
And then the other part too, I think it is a man's world in that sense, and it's very hard to. I think a lot of times you get delusioned about um, once you create the doll, what do you do with that? Because
Hmm.
I don't think they understand the process on the back end of getting shelf space, which is very hard to do. And you
Sure.
need a huge amount of quantity to even be in retail.
Right,
So I
right.
think a lot of times you have this idea, this is what I want to do, and then you realize, oh, yeah, that's not going to happen right now.
Hmm.
And so you do have small quantities. And unless you have shows like this or other shows and magazines talking about those small doll makers out there, nobody knows who they are,
Yeah.
and they're still producing really small quantities. So, yeah, I think it's a
Yeah.
combination of both.
Yeah. No.
Same, yes, they
Yeah.
are.
Nobody understands it. When you're talking about making a doll, how much it is. People need to understand what's going on, and there's a lot of, depends on how you. I'm not using this word um, uh, to be mean, but there's just a lot of ignorance in that people just don't understand what's going on. So
Hmm.
Well,
you've
don't
got
you
that.
think it goes back to emotional response? They love dolls, but they're not business people. They're not
Hmm.
publishers.
Yes.
They're not production designers. They don't understand this money that you're talking about, investment, time,
Yes.
Hmm.
licensing fees,
Hmm.
Hmm.
engineers. All they just want a doll. So it's purely emotional. It's like a
Emotional.
dollar,
Yes.
gimme, 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 without any background. Now, when you look at all the people that you've interviewed, because
Hmm.
I've interviewed them too, Joseph Zacharias was an animator for Disney. Mel Odom was
Right.
an illustrator and artist of great renown for years before he did Gene.
Yep.
Robert
Hmm.
Robert
Connor
Tana.
in
Yeah.
the design business worked with Bill Blass. Jason was a design student, but a very precocious design student from an early age and doing this stuff from the get-go.
Hmm.
They didn't just say one day, I'm cooking for the kids, maybe I should be a doll designer.
Yes.
When you talk to Alex and Amanda of Kingdom Doll,
That's awesome. That's true.
Alex was going through a really rough divorce and moved back home to the UK and had nothing and no money. But she had skill and talent and an
Hmm.
education in the arts and did various things in the arts, everything from being a hairdresser to designing artisanal
Hmm.
tile. So she understood sculpting. She was
Right.
good with a camera and she's really good with computers. So she understood that she would embark on learning the 3D program so she could actually develop her dolls.
Hmm.
Amanda is well trained in fashion and can make the clothing. And
Hmm.
they get along. They're very complementary in temperament. So it made sense.
Yeah.
So much of their success is because they work 14 hours a day and work in their sleep and never take time
Right.
off. And they're constantly self-promoting and sharing social media. And I really think it's because Alex is such an exceptional photographer that for a starting company, they came out of the gate with extraordinary images that were highly professional and the best looking things out in the market.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
Hmm.
even if the other dolls might have been better or different or something you might have liked more side by side, she blew them away with her photography. So
Hmm.
the point is you have to come into the
Come
game
in
with
with
some
something.
skills.
Yes.
You can't just
Hmm.
like dolls.
That's true.
Hmm.
That is
I've
true.
said this too. Like I worked at two major magazines. I worked with the
Hmm.
most famous photographers in the world. I worked with Penn and Avedon and Elgort and Mizell. I mean, I have touched that realm of
Right.
greatness.
That's
So
true. That's
I'm bringing
true.
that with me. I'm not just, oh, I just like dolls and pretty pictures of Dior dresses. You know, there's a whole other thing going on there. But I tell people that want to embark into a career in the doll world, go back to school. FIT has a toy design program, get a degree. If you can't do that, get a job at a toy company, any toy.
Yep.
You're not going to become head designer at Mattel. Just be the guy who answers the
Be
phone.
in there, but be in there, you know? Yep.
Learn the game. And
But I think it's true. I think you know, if you're not coming out of the gate, you know, with like you said, with any kind of background, you know, I trust me, I know, because I did not. When me and Audrey, we, you know, she had an idea. She's like, oh yeah, we could, you know, she saw I was collecting dolls, and she's like, oh, we can make some money. That was like the last thing we did, you know, was make some money, you know, because we realized because being in that space, you started to understand, I don't have these talents. I don't have, you know, the information that I needed. I mean, thank goodness for Percy, because Percy was very instrumental in us, you know, getting a sculptor, you know, even sharing, you know, his time with us. And, you know, when we found him, I actually found him on a box of one of his dolls, Integrity dolls. I went looking, okay, who can we talk to? Because, you know, we had no idea. And so I was like, oh, this is a nice looking doll. And I said, it said Maryland. And I was like, oh, that's right around the corner from us. Let me start calling. And that's what I did, you know, I mean, way before the internet was popular. But we understood that we didn't really come into the game with any idea except for, like, hey, let's make some money because these are great dolls. And we could do a doll that looked like us because it wasn't out there. But that's all we came into the game with. We had I had no artistic ability, you know what I mean? Anything like that. And so we had to bring in those people in all areas. And then that's, like you said, and at the end, that's why it costs us a lot more money. Because if you don't come in being able to sculpt, or you don't come in with any kind of fashion design, you know, you can't do a dress, then you got to hire other people. And so I think you're so right about that. You have to, you know, have some kind of background to understand the process of what you're getting into.
But it's timing too, because I think you were so ahead of the curve that you were too soon.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Seriously, because the being proud of your body consciousness, and loving who you are is still new to women. Yeah. And when you brought out your dolls, I think people are like, all dolls should be skinny. They look like models or something.
Yes, we definitely were against the grain, that's for sure, you know.
And so it's a very challenging thing to put out there and say, no, that this should look like you, and it should look like real women. Oh, no, la, 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 la. So timing is a large part of it, because now everybody's onto that.
Yes, everybody's so happy about being who they are, which they should be, but yeah, and they're having dolls that represent that, you know, and people are saying, okay, we'll participate, you know, but it is a very challenging space, but it's also really very cool space, you know, at the same time. It's really cool to create something and put something out that you thought about, and now it's tangible, you know, and you see it, and people, you know, either they like it or they don't. You hope they do like it, but it's still, like you said, it's like your baby, you know, it's your baby. It becomes your baby. So, you know.
Even if they don't like it, this is the other thing I learned, because I never used to be thick-skinned. I always took every criticism very personally, because this magazine was my baby. And then I realized it's actually, in a way, good that there are people that don't like it, because they're responding. You made them look.
Yeah.
They got mad, they got jealous, they got petty. They still looked.
They still looked.
Decided they had to come in and give an opinion about what you did. And I always say, by all means, you go next. I'm out. You know, bye. Good luck. Just do it. And then you do learn that, okay, there is a price to pay for your delicate nature, that you're gonna have to take a lot of grief and a lot of criticism, and people are just going to be rude to you. I had a stalker for a while.
Wow.
Weirdo who would steal my pictures and then threaten to have me murdered on Facebook groups and stuff.
Because you were doing a doll.
And I thought, well, I guess I've reached the pinnacle of success.
I'm like, wow. Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
But I mean, that's the weird, I think that's true of any business, though, is probably once you gain some kind of visibility and you become the person who does this thing, there are people that want to do that thing too. And if you're doing it, then they resent you for it. or they're jealous, or they just think they could do it better.
Mm-hmm.
At which point, that's what everyone says if they don't like a doll from Mattel or any big company. I could do that better, or you could do that better. I like your one-of-a-kind better. It takes 6 months for these people to make a one-of-a-kind. They wouldn't last a day at the Alexander Doll Company or Integrity or to any company ever,
Right.
or Vogue or Mattel.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because all of those people are trained and educated in a business side of design and
Right.
development.
Mhm.
And so that was a hard thing to learn, though. You know, you get criticized when you put out something you really love that means something to you,
Yeah.
and you have to suck it up, and it's not always pleasant.
What do you think was one of the challenging things about getting your magazine, started? Well, I guess not so much started, but sustaining it for so long.
Yes.
You know?
Money.
Good question.
It's all about the Benjamins.
That's the
It's always about
Benjamin.
money. Because, as advertising waned, because companies went out of business, small companies have no advertising money. This goes back to training too. If you think you're a business person, get your business degree and learn what it takes to launch a business. And part of what it takes is money to invest in self-promotion, media, and advertising. If you decide you don't need that and you're going to post shit on Facebook, you're going to be in for a big surprise as far as how well that's going to go or how far your reach is going to be. And all of these companies that have gone by the wayside and come and gone, then you have no one to give you advertising, and then it becomes just a labor of love. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
I could keep writing, but that's what everybody does. Also, the other problem is the age group, to be frank, is that most collectors are still in the baby boomer demographic, and they don't like technology enough. So they were having a hard time with the digital downloads. They wanted paper. The magazine, $10 to begin with. It would be $30 now. And then printing went up. So it was all sorts of things. Cost of printing went up, advertising went down. The readers were aging out. The remaining readers, like yourself, like, I'll start my own blog. I'll do my own podcast. I'll do my own thing instead of reading a magazine.
Yeah.
And so it's just the natural course of things that it shifts, and you either come up with some other plan to accommodate the shift, which is why we were digital, to do that. But there were no more doll stores. I mean, at one point, in addition to Barnes and Noble and Borders, which is also gone, that was thousands of magazines distributed, that went away. We had like 45 doll stores in the United States alone, and another 40, in Europe and Asia and Australia.
That's all we have? Or as you said, we lost those?
We lost
that
those.
many.
We lost, I don't know how many dozens of doll stores through retirement or death or just going out of business.
Yes.
So if you don't have doll stores advertising, you don't have doll companies advertising.
That's true.
Readership is old and dying. There's not a lot left to make it keep working.
Yeah.
Not that I can think of. I mean, Godspeed to the next person who does come up with the answer to how to do it. But I just thought, okay, I've hit a wall. So it's time to wrap it up, and better to wrap it up and not owe anybody money.
Right.
Yes.
That was a promise I made to myself and to my husband that I wasn't going to end this in debt.
Yes.
So I decided a year ago so that people would run out their subscriptions and no one could come at me for $3 extra that I owed them on PayPal or anything. When I was going to be done, I was going to be done. And I didn't sell my list. No one has my subscribers' names.
Right.
I'm not selling the brand. No one's going to take it over and ruin it. Taking it with me. Buried with a magazine in my hand. But those are the kind of things you kind of have to think about so that all the work you've done doesn't go away or get stomped on or disregarded. So
yeah, that makes sense then. So how are you transitioning, like to pivoting to other things? Like, where are you going now since you're not actually publishing the Fashion Doll Quarterly?
I have become an excellent baker, and I have the extra 20 pounds to show for it during COVID. So there's that. I don't, it's funny. I mean, I still take pictures, and I have a photo studio, and I have all my dolls in there. And that's why I said, I think I might do this photo school online, because I am a teacher at heart, and I have all the wherewithal to do it. And so while people are going to the site for back issues and downloads, they can go watch a little class, a nice short one, and they can download the chapter and,
nice.
a a chapter, and maybe we can make some money that way. And then hopefully something will become clear to me. Or
Yes.
not.
I understand. Yes, yes. You
Yes.
just,
I
yeah.
thought about doing a menopause blog, daily flash. You know, that seems to be my demographic. So, but now everybody's doing that too now.
Yes.
Talk about that. So, well, that's been done. But there is a lot to be said for the generational thing, because I learned that
Yes.
teaching, that when I started teaching 24 years ago, I was closer in age to my students than their parents. Now I'm older than their parents. So now I'm closing in on being as old as their grandparents. And that has kept me very fresh, because you keep meeting 19-year-olds and you see what's going on. Who do they care about?
Right.
But then you realize you're further and further away from that dock. You know, you're out on the boat. Bye. Bye, kids. And so it's not as interesting, because even some of the newer dolls that are coming out, I don't like as much. They're not what I want. And a lot of dolls that I collected, like Tanner dolls and Jean, are gone. So that forces your collection to shrink, because they literally don't make the dolls you buy. So that alters your passion for it too, because then you just have less interest in the business if you only collect 1 or 2 dolls.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Let it be someone else now who has that passion and what's in the market. And
Let it be
you know,
It'd be Tammy. Trust me. She talks about so many dolls and so many people. I'm like, who? Okay, let me get my
I
my
love
research
dolls.
on. Yeah,
I
and then she loves
love dolls.
Yeah,
I love all things dolls. This is, I mean, and to be able to, you know, to be interviewing people and finding out about their journeys, and this is a good gig.
yeah, it's fun. Like you said, it's
Be
really fun
happy.
to talk to people who get it.
Yes.
So you don't have to be embarrassed, and you can name drop and refer to things, and they know what you're talking about.
Yes.
And you know what's funny is, I didn't realize this at first, but now to this day, friends will surprise me. They'll buy me like a Playline Barbie. They don't realize that it's not really my area, but the fact that they always think of me if they see a Barbie that they think, oh, it looks like you with the glasses, or it looks like this, or I just thought you'd like it because you collect dolls. It's kind of nice to be the eccentric, weird friend in the group. You know, I have friends who at a party will say, oh, Pat, tell them what you do. Like I'm going to sing or something. No, it's really cool. Wait till you hear what she does. Because it's a weird niche, you know, it's not what you hear every day.
That's funny.
So I've come to enjoy that. And I think you obviously enjoy it. So that can be your vibe, you know?
Yeah.
You love what
it does happen that way, you know. People do, because literally almost all the time now when I talk to people, they're like, oh, so what's up with the doll show, you know, what's up with the, you know, you're in the Doll World podcast, and they're just always, they just seem they're so excited because it's something definitely totally different. Nothing. I've had so many guys, like we had an editor at first, and he would tell me, you know, I'm really not a doll guy. This was his first thing. He goes, but I find those interviews so fascinating. You know, I mean, he's actually bought a couple of dolls because he's heard their stories. But he's like, I never thought about it that way. I never thought about the people who created dolls, you know, that way. And so
you're never going to be at a cocktail party and have somebody go, oh, wait till you hear what Bob does. He's an accountant. Not going to happen. So it's kind of nice that you're bringing something literally to the party that's interesting and eclectic, and then people always fess up. Oh, I had a fill in the blank as a kid. Oh, my favorite doll was this, or if they come to my house in the old days, in my old apartment on 110th Street, I had all my dolls crammed into my office bedroom.
I was going to say, you couldn't have them crammed in too far on 110th Street.
New York City. They're like on the subway, and the guy cabinets, their little faces squished against his side. But people would absolutely find a way to go in there, you know, with a station, because they were dying to see, you know, what's the new thing you got, and what's this about, and oh, this one looks like a movie star. This one is, oh, this looks like my mother. And so even if they were trying to be too cool and be above doll collecting, they kind of liked it. They wanted to see it.
Yeah.
This is our little tribe that we all understand the language.
That's so true. That is so true. Yeah. I mean, I love your magazine. I'm just glad it was still out there. You know, I know it's not there anymore physically, but you know that you're not producing anymore. But the beautiful magazine, and the pictures were amazing, and the articles were just fabulous. I mean, And it was like the Vogue of, it really was. And so
Yeah,
that's
it's
what I think it
beautiful.
made it so unique. But you could tell that you took your time and put your talent and your, your heart and soul into that. And it was
Yeah,
really beautiful. It was just beautiful. We're all really sorry to see it go. I know you are too, in that sense,
yeah,
but you do understand it's just the time, and
yeah,
and like you said, it's better to leave when it's still, you know, still on top than
Always leave them wanting more.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, but
yeah.
I'm
And
excited to see your classes, that you're going to
I
be
am
giving.
too. And I
I
also
might
wanted,
learn something. I'm sure I will.
I also wanted to make sure to, to just say thank you to you, because when we've talked about this offline, we were really honored. We were
Mm,
shocked
it's
and
sad, yeah,
honored
about it, but yeah.
to have you endorse us.
Try to support other women too. I mean, that's a big deal for me. And
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I was always really kind of going out of my way to find as many women as I could to write about, as well as contribute and collaborate with. And this
Yes.
was a frustration, like we talked about earlier, that
Yes, it
there aren't
is.
as many as you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, you do have a couple of guys taking pictures and a couple of guys doing a layout or a design, because you still want good people no matter who they are.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But it's always exciting on my end too if you can raise up other women doing something that you
Yes.
think is really cool. And it
Yes.
doesn't happen enough because, like I said, there aren't enough women stepping up. And
Mm-hmm.
I would say, like, everybody needs to get off their ass and do something, figure out what it's going to be, but
Yeah.
participate.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That
Well,
is
yeah,
true.
that's the
So,
key, is just saying you can do it. To your earlier point about, well, men have money and maybe women are raising kids and stuff. Yeah, but like any business or any opportunity, there's no reason to say no. There's no reason to think you can't do it, but be realistic about getting
mm-hmm.
credentials under your belt so you can
Mm-hmm.
do
Yeah,
it.
Mm-hmm.
that's true.
Everyone I've spoken to in general has had lots of experiences that, if not directly, certainly support the plan, whether it's in the arts or design
Mm-hmm.
or sculpting or something, so that it makes sense that they could get to this place and
Mm-hmm.
launch a successful product.
Mm-hmm.
That's not so much to ask, really. I think
I think that's those who rise above, who
Yeah.
those are the ones that we get to read about, who
Mm-hmm.
they get their dolls created and whatever. Because a lot of people, when we're talking to Joseph was saying, I saw a lot of people come to the factory to get their dolls created, and I saw a lot of those people leave without a doll.
yeah.
Somewhere along the point, of
Mm-hmm.
getting this doll made, they ran out of money, energy, time,
Yeah.
something, and they didn't get their dolls made. So yeah, we need people to come. I mean, as they say, come correct.
Mhm.
But I think, again, a lot of people don't understand. So it is important that you get some education, that you look things up, that you don't just jump off,
Mm-hmm.
half cocked.
Yeah.
Because even after you get the doll made, then it's, how do you sell it?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a long journey,
Yeah.
and Georgette and I talk about it because we play with the idea about doing a doll together, a doll separately,
Mm-hmm.
we talk about it. But, part of the thing for us has been, this journey has helped us to understand that journey
Yeah,
better.
totally. It has.
I think the integrity of the person embarking on the business is an important aspect, that you have to
Mm-hmm.
get some credibility with the community in order to start something and people to give you money.
Yeah, that's true. I
So
definitely think that's true.
that would be a tip I would give people.
Yes. And
Yes.
that's good. That's
Do
really
I know
good.
you? Should I give you my money? Because that's something you think about.
Yeah, it
It
is. I mean,
is.
because it's an investment into somebody else too, and but it's also you're looking at them and saying that you're investing too in me, because I'm giving you something, you have to give me something back, and
Hmm.
that's important. That comes with trust and
And you want
understanding
repeat
who that person
customers. I
is.
mean,
Yeah, totally.
collectors collect. So that very beginning interaction with your community has to be one where there's trust and there's talent, and they
Hmm.
know they're going to get their doll, and they'll
Yeah,
Hmm.
order another doll.
crazy. Well, you would definitely have seen the gamut of the doll business. being
Definitely.
having a magazine like that. So you get to interview so many people. So
And for so
very cool.
long. Yes.
Yeah. Well,
You
you
should
so much.
also, you guys should interview someone at Vogue's. Akari and Shino speak English, not fluently, but the greatest experience of my life in the doll community was going to Japan and seeing the inner workings of Vogue's and meeting the Shigeta family and understanding how he grew that business from doing Godzilla hobby monsters to
Wow.
Super Dolphy. And, you know,
Wow.
they're as big as Mattel over there.
Okay.
Really?
Their Dolpas, they have at a place called Big Sight in Tokyo that's like the equivalent of the Javits Center in New York, packed with doll people buying stuff all day. Lines and lines.
Really?
Wow.
It's the most extraordinary thing I've ever seen. And it
Wow.
blew my mind because we only see what we see here.
Yeah.
Whole other game.
Really interesting. You know, my
And
son is in Japan, so
I was gonna say maybe he could translate for us
yeah,
if
my
they were
son
saying
was
that
there. He's
they.
been there about 3 years, and so he speaks fluent Japanese. So that may be something we could work out.
like I said, Shino and Akari, the two daughters that basically I think are running the company now. I think Mr. Shigeta's retired.
Okay.
His wife is retired. But they're still around. It's still a family business. They went to college in Oklahoma, so they
Oh,
speak
okay. So
English,
they
yeah.
speak English.
but
Okay.
they also have several people that are there to translate and clarify and proofread. Like whenever we send them an article, they make sure that all the wording is correct and they go through the process of sending it back to us that makes sense in English.
Okay.
Okay.
It's really, it was such an incredible experience. And of course, there's nothing like going there.
Yes.
Yes.
That would be wonderful.
Yes.
I mean, you know, that would be something that we would love to do, you know, even
Yes.
once, you know, once this COVID thing obviously is over, to be able to take the doll world to a place where we could, you know, have, you know, get 1 or 2 people to shoot for us and, you know what I mean, do the show from those places, because I think that would be just phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's great to write about it. It's great to talk about it, but the experience of being there is just amazing. And that was my before that, my greatest experience of my life. And, you know, my husband doesn't feel bad when I don't include my wedding. I put this above our wedding, but he gets it, was to go to Mattel and to have access to their inner sanctum.
I could see that.
Yes.
And see where they shoot, see where they have business meetings, how they plan, go to the offices, watch them root hair, watch them do one-of-a-kind face, watch them debate which dolls stay in the line. I mean, that was a child's dream come true. That was just a mind blower. It was so amazing that I was not over it for a year.
Oh, that's so cool though, you know?
So, you know, I've gotten a lot under my belt that has been tremendous and amazing and extraordinary. So it's all been worth it with all the other craziness and frustrations and, you know, not retiring rich or anything, but a lot of good times. A lot of
I was going to say lots of, you know, rich with
Much
memories.
more richer. That's all.
Yeah.
Just different riches. So
yeah,
that's so cool. So where can people, I know you're not doing the magazine per se, but where can people check out some things that are going to be happening for you now? Where can they still
the website's still live.
Okay.
So like I said, if I do the photo class, I'll put it there, and then I just usually post it on social media like Instagram and Facebook and whatnot.
Okay.
Because again, it's that whole thing of having the existing community.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little easier for me to launch something like that because people know me and they know where to go to get stuff. And
yes,
if I post it and I say the link is there, you know, they'll go look.
Okay.
So I'll probably do fairly short classes so that they'll accumulate over the weeks and months to be sort of an overreaching master class.
Okay.
Better term.
Right.
Specific to doll collectors and the issues with that. You know, different size dolls. I have little ones, I have big ones. So we'll cover all that. And then the good thing is, you know, the feedback, people always, whenever I do these presentations, say, can you tell me about this thing? And so then I can adjust accordingly and then do a gig about that.
Okay.
Whatever.
Class about that. Okay, great.
So it's nice.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, it's been great talking to you, Pat. Just
too,
an honor, and it's been a fun conversation and lots of learning. So yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your
Yes.
journey with us in the doll world. We're so excited. We've been excited to have this interview for a while now. And
Yes.
and again, we want to thank you for the interview that you did with us, and we really appreciate that. And you know, it has made us very happier about doing this show as well because of that. You know, we really appreciate it.
It feels like what we're doing is significant. I mean, we have those those moments. You know, one of them was Mel Odom talking to us. It's like, whoa, Mel Odom's talking to us. You know, and then
Like
the
your
other big
Mattel
one,
thing, you know, it's always
yeah,
something that you like, oh, that's so cool.
yeah. And the other one was you. And it's like, what an honor. Fashion Doll Quarterly. She knows who we are. We exist. And not only does she know who we are, we exist, she endorsed us. So it's just like, whoa, we must be doing something.
And
You
she
know,
said
and
yes to
that's,
an interview.
yeah, exactly.
Well,
Thank you
so much,
Pat.
Pat. You
thank
stay
you.
safe out there in New York, okay?
Yes.
I'm hiding.
I know.
Hiding till 2021.
I know, right?
Exactly.
I think everybody feels safe. They'll be able to at least pick up, past the covers in 2021.
Exactly.
So we'll be good. Okay, this is safe.
Pretty much.
All right. Well, thank you again for being on the Doll World, Pat. We really
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Okay,
Yeah.
love.
All right. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.